Even though Gravity Falls has some of the biggest hiatuses we have ever seen, we really appreciate this hilarious show. But you have to admit that some episodes were so scary and inappropriate, they definitely weren't meant for kids. Wait until you see which episode makes adults shut their eyes because it's so scary. Give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Let's check out 10 Gravity Falls episodes that weren't for kids. The Inconveniencing. Alright, let's start with something light. The Inconveniencing immediately starts with Dipper asking Mabel if she believes in ghosts, and her replying that she believes he's a big dork. Charming, isn't it? It's definitely something kids shouldn't say. We have a feeling parents also wouldn't like the fact that Wendy didn't listen to her boss and invited Mabel and Dipper to the roof of the shop, even though Suze told her not to. The kids are seen throwing pine cones from the roof, and when Dipper hits a car, he sets off the alarm. But even though Dipper's scared, Wendy's totally cool about it. She even high-fives him. Something tells us that parents wouldn't be amused if any of their kids pick up these habits because of Gravity Falls. And of course, Wendy also skips work and disappears to hang out with her friends. What a great work ethic. Then Dipper realizes he's having a crush on Wendy. When she asks him how old he is, he says he's 13, which is a complete lie. All that just to see some kids shoot beans at someone's belly? We all know kids always want to hang out with the cool teenagers, but this episode makes it very clear that kids should never do things like riding on a car or hang out at a haunted convenience store. Talking about giving in to peer pressure. Carpet Diem. This episode is not so much a bad life lesson as it is simply just one of the weirdest episodes ever. Carpet Diem is the 16th episode of season 1, and it starts with Mabel playing her own version of mini golf. We don't have to say that you definitely shouldn't play mini golf like that inside your house, right? When Dipper finds out that Mabel's having a sleepover, he totally freaks out because obviously he has to share the room with them. We also learn that Suze enjoys hurting himself, and although that's not too much of a surprise, kids shouldn't try doing the exact same things. After the sleepover is over, Mabel and Dipper fight and realize they want to have their own room. Just like that, Suze finds a mystery shack in the attic. When Dipper and Mabel stand on the shaggy blue carpet, they end up fighting and magically swap bodies. Talk about being creepy! This is exactly like Freaky Friday, but possibly scarier. Watching Mabel and Dipper freak out is actually quite scary. This episode is actually so complicated, most kids would never get it. The worst part of this episode is definitely Grunkle Stan explaining the birds and the bees to Dipper. This episode has a lot going on, and none of it is meant for kids. Scarioki. Scarioki has a completely different setting than some of the other episodes. This one is one of those that is beloved by adults more than it is by kids. It all starts with Stan working on the universe portal and the announcement that the government agents will travel to Gravity Falls. Stan obviously doesn't like the fact that the government is visiting Mystery Shack. Dipper tries to convince the agents that the Leprechaun's journal is actually valuable to their investigation. Of course, they don't take it seriously when they see what kind of things are inside, but pay attention as the agent opens up a page and shows it to Dipper. You can see 2 cryptograms. One says, "Watch out," and the other translates into "Kill me, please." Seems pretty gruesome for a kid's show, right? It gets even scarier when Dipper continues to convince the agents that the journal is real and zombies start coming out from the ground. At this point, the episode becomes much darker and intense. We have a feeling there are a lot of kids out there that would have nightmares from these zombies. It gets even scarier when Suze turns into a zombie and asks kids if he can eat their brains. Although it all ends in a karaoke session, we have a feeling many kids would want to skip the second half of this episode. Into the Bunker. Into the Bunker is the second episode of season 2, and although it's the 7th on our list, many fans seem to think that this episode features one of the scariest monsters of all time. We've already talked about zombies, but something's as scary as the Gravity Falls shape-shifting monster. First, you have to get through Dipper's awkward crush on Wendy, but that gets better after a while. The scary parts start when the gang almost gets squashed in a room. Wendy and Dipper get trapped with the shapeshifter monster. After being tricked, he's the author of the journals. After they try to run away and escape with the journal, they get chased, and honestly, it's pretty scary. If you think about it, this monster could transform into practically anybody. Wendy even gets a bloody knee from trying to escape the scary shape-shifting monster. Fans admit that the shapeshifter is one of the scariest Gravity Falls characters ever, and we definitely agree. It's especially scary to see Wendy turn into a shapeshifter and Dipper struggling to tell which one is the real Wendy. As Suze says, good luck sleeping tonight if you're watching this episode. Although the cutest part was definitely Dipper admitting to Wendy that he likes her. Talk about ending the episode on an adorable note. However, Wendy is right. Dipper is definitely too young for her. Not what he seems. Mabel admitting that she's a creep in this episode is pretty hilarious. The kids and Grunkle Stan decide to light some fireworks on the roof, and although it seems Stan has something to say, he actually supports this decision and even encourages Mabel to set something on fire. We have a feeling parents wouldn't want their kids to do this without their permission or a permit, according to Blubs. Whether Blubs has a permit for being totally lame is also probably not something you'd want to hear a kid say, especially to an authority. But Stan getting tackled and agents suddenly securing the house and arresting him is definitely scary, especially when the agents claim that Stan is definitely not innocent in this whole situation. Stan and Mabel then find some fake IDs and an article that's probably mind-blowing for many adults. They reveal that Stan Pines is actually dead and that there's a grifter at large who looks exactly like him. It's pretty creepy seeing them figure out who they've been actually living with. This is definitely an episode that's meant for adults. The secrets, the mysterious codes, and some sense of humor thrown in the mix will be appreciated by adults more than kids. Of course, you also finally meet the author of the journals, which is completely mind-blowing. The Tooth. Welcome to the Dipper's Guide to the Unexplained. The Tooth is an animated short that should be avoided by anyone who doesn't like to see, well, teeth or weird puppets, but we'll get into that later. Dipper is trying to find out what's with the random big tooth close to the lake. The tooth is gigantic and bigger than any fish Dipper's ever seen. Him and Mabel investigate the lake, but what's even scarier than being at the lake during the night is Mabel's childhood bear, Barrow. Even Dipper admits he's creepy, and his face is definitely not the kindest. It's also pretty weird hearing Mabel do the deep bear voice. Even the cartoon kids hate Barrow the bear, and Mabel doing the promo for it through the entire short doesn't make it any better. Of course, the short gets even weirder when Mabel and Dipper row their boat and end up getting attacked by a giant head. The scenes move far too fast, and quite honestly, they're definitely not meant for kids. Even though the shot is only a couple of minutes long, Barrow made it seem like it's even longer. Everyone's afraid of Barrow, which is why this is definitely one of those episodes that shouldn't be seen by kids or adults who are afraid of puppet bears. Roadside Attraction. First lesson of Roadside Attraction is don't actually spray the bug spray on hitchhikers. We're telling you, Stan isn't exactly a good role model for kids. We also get another glimpse into Dipper's obsession with Wendy. Sure, being in love with someone is one thing, but having that many photos of her seems a bit weird, doesn't it? Roadside Attraction also features one of the most terrifying characters on the show that gave everyone nightmares, including adults. And no, it's not the cringy part where Dipper gets practically asked on a date or Dipper getting pretty much mobbed by all the girls that came on the trip. It's a completely different character. Remember the spider lady? It's exactly why we think this episode definitely isn't meant for kids. Darlene is pretty creepy, but so is Stan and Darlene flirting. After Stan takes Darlene on a so-called date, he ends up stuck in a spider web. And what's more scary than a regular spider? A blonde-headed woman with big earrings and spider legs. It gets even worse when she takes off her human mask and turns into an actual spider. And it's not just kids who should stay away from this episode. Roadside Attraction should be avoided by anyone who suffers from arachnophobia. Darlene is definitely not the one you should be messing with. The Hand That Rocks the Mabel. The Hand That Rocks the Mabel is easily considered to be one of the worst Gravity Falls episodes, but even a bad episode like this has its good moments. However, there's a character in this episode that might even be creepy for adults, let alone kids. Lil Gideon is one of those characters that makes every single episode creepy. He might be little, but he's Stan's mortal enemy. He's manipulative and frequently uses mind control and telekinesis, even on Mabel, his crush. We're pretty sure he even makes a couple of adults totally uncomfortable. We do have to say that his dressing room is completely fantastic, even though his pickup lines are incredibly lame. Dipper makes a good point. Never trust anyone whose hair is bigger than their head. Lil Gideon is definitely one of those people that just goes a bit over the line and basically makes everyone uncomfortable, including the people who are watching the show. He's also rude and extremely inappropriate to the restaurant staff, and we can imagine no parent would want their child to put their feet on the table like that. We're also not really digging the Gideon and Mabel relationship. The two don't even have a cute ship name. Not to mention he peer pressured Mabel to say yes to him to another. This relationship is definitely not something for kids. The Last MABELCORN. The Last MABELCORN starts off pretty scary, especially since we get to see Bill Cipher once again. You have to admit his voice is pretty creepy, and that whole scene at the beginning seems a bit out of ordinary even for Gravity Falls. It's scenes like these that could easily give kids nightmares. This episode isn't actually that bad, apart from the fact that we learn about yet another one of Stan's crimes. Dipper also gets an important lesson in trusting people, but first, it's time we talk about pug trafficking. It's an ongoing joke in Gravity Falls, only it's really not funny. Kids might think these pugs are cute and it's adorable to see a few barrels of pugs in the back of Santiago's van, but it's definitely not cute when you hear that Stan is actually trafficking these pugs across the border, which is most definitely illegal. Kids don't get any ideas. We've said it before that Stan isn't exactly a good role model, but the scene in The Last MABELCORN reminds us that the team behind Gravity Falls is able to get away with pretty gruesome ideas. Those poor pugs. Wait until you see about the very last episode that was probably the scariest of them all. It wasn't for kids, but some adults have reported they were pretty uncomfortable watching it too. Northwest Mansion Mystery. Welcome to the scariest episode of Gravity Falls. The Northwest Mansion Mystery has been noted as the episode that will definitely give kids nightmares, which is exactly why it's on our list. Sure, it gives us a new insight into Pacifica and Dipper's relationship, which was never really that great, but there are definitely a few scenes that shouldn't be seen by kids who want to sleep peacefully. It all starts when the Northwest Manor's cutlery starts to levitate. Pacifica asks Dipper for help, and of course Mabel wants Dipper to help so she can go to the mansion party. And that's when the problems start. From the strange painting to the talking animal heads with blood coming out of their eyes, this episode is definitely much scarier than any other Gravity Falls episode you have seen. And it gets 100 times worse when Dipper and Pacifica wake up the ghost of the Northwest Mansion and he rises up from the fireplace. Scary music, a big ghost with an axe and an agenda, and creepy ghost noises are really what makes the Northwest Mansion Mystery one of the scariest episodes ever. What's the scariest episode of Gravity Falls you've ever seen? Make sure you let us know in the comments below. And that's it for our video. For more videos like this one, check out 10 cartoon secrets finally revealed. See you next time!